Today on Cryptic Mass Guitar, we do a comparison between the Epiphone Les Paul Classic and the Gibson Les Paul Classic. So before we get started, I very quickly want to address the elephant in the room here. Generally, when you do videos on Epiphone versus Gibson, budget friendly versus not so much budget friendly, you get the same comments. So there's generally about 3 of them. Usually you get, Epiphone's way better than Gibson. Gibson's just overpriced, which they're more expensive than they should be. It's better spending less money, and there is quality in here. It sounds like a guitar. And the other one is, Gibson is way better. It's better to spend more money, and I'm more important because I have the Gibson. And then the third one is, they both suck. So I kind of like to avoid those comments because there's just no point to them. But I do have 5 sound samples for you today. We're going to start out with what makes most people happy, and that is clean with the bridge, middle position, and then the neck position, and then we're going to go through a couple others, and then we're going to end on full-on metal. However, it is excellent to watch YouTube videos and kind of, it gives you a different perspective, and get to see the guitars in direct comparison and different, direct action against each other, so you can hear some subtle differences for the most part. However, please don't use this video or any other video online to decide whether this is the guitar that's right for you or not. Make sure you're playing them. If you have that opportunity, go in the store and play the guitars, because I don't know why, but it just seems like feel is something that's left out of the equation a lot of times, and it's usually about sound that people talk about. But I've always found the most important part of guitar is how you bond with it and how it feels to you. So make sure you're playing the guitars yourself, and that's kind of the deciding factor. Alright, so there we go. There are the 5 sound samples in the comparison between the Epiphone Les Paul Classic and the Gibson Les Paul Classic. So basically what I'd like to do here is talk about the spec differences and then kind of give you a little bit of my opinion, even though it may not matter to you, and that's perfectly fine. So let's start things out with the specs. So basically we're looking at a Les Paul for both of these. So we've got a slab of mahogany with a carved maple top on top of it. They're also bound bodies and they also have bound necks. We're looking at rosewood fretboard on the Gibson and a laurel fretboard on the Les Paul Classic. However, it's not always laurel. There's usually different types of rosewood families that are being used. But for the most part, I believe the Classic is usually going to be laurel. Both have set mahogany necks. However, even though they both say that they are a slim taper neck, these are a little different. The neck here is just, on the Gibson, is just a little bit smaller, whereas it's a little thicker here on the Epiphone. I do have to say, the Epiphone, it kind of feels like it's very close to the Gibson, but it just feels, because of the difference in feel to it, just feels like it's a little bit on the unfinished side. That's just a way that I'm looking at it, just because I'm so used to the Gibson, I think. Both have Grover Rotomatic tuners. Both have the inlaid logo with the silkscreen Les Paul model logo. The Epiphone has the Alnico Pro pickups, whereas the Gibson here has the 61R and 61T. Both guitars do have the push-pulls. So basically the two volumes are coil tap on the Gibson, whereas the Epiphone is coil split. So there is definitely a tonal difference there. I find that the coil split is a little more pleasing than the coil tap, but that is just personal preference. The tones on both guitars have the bridge. I always call it the hot wire bridge, where it takes basically everything out of the equation and it's the full-blown bridge. So it's like a more direct shot to the bridge. So it's like input, bridge pickup, basically. And then the other tone is the out of phase. So that's where you get a little bit of a quackier sound. Some people say it's the Les Paul somewhat Strat 2 and 4 position, but it's just a different sound that you may or may not use. And then lastly here, we'll look at the bridges. The Gibson has an ABR1 bridge on it, whereas the Les Paul Classic has the Epiphone lock tone bridge to it. So as far as the bridges here, I do have to say that if you're going to get the Epiphone Les Paul Classic, I'd recommend upgrading the bridge. They're not expensive or anything like that, and it's not really hard to do. But the reason I say that is this is a rental here, and it looks like it was rented once before, and the saddles seem like there's just a lot of movement in them, and that's something that's going to really affect intonation at some point, where you could, like, it's almost to the point now where I can actually go like this and push on the saddle and it'll move. It's not quite there, it's getting to that point. So to me, that's something that, you know what, spend like 60 to 80 bucks and get a bridge that's not going to do that and it's going to last you a lot longer. And because this is not US, you do not want to get the Imperial version, you want to get the metric version for the bridge. That's really the specs in a nutshell. There's definitely more that I could have gone over. However, that's really all I care to go over, because I think those are the most important bullet points. So I do want to talk about my opinion on the guitars here. And I do have to say, I own this and I rented this. I would buy this again. I'd probably look to you know, some more guitar, like Gibson standards, just because I find that I prefer my standards over the classic, but not like by a whole huge mile or anything like that. But I would not purchase the Epiphone Les Paul Classic. If you like the Epiphone over the Gibson, that's awesome. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just, to me, this is a lot more comfortable than this. I don't know what it is. This just feels a little more solid than this does. There's a little more weight to it than this one here. The neck feels like it's actually a finished neck, whereas this one here, to me, feels like it's just a little off. And again, that's because I'm used to using this neck, whereas I'm not used to using that neck. This is... I find it hard not to sing the praises of the Epiphone Les Paul Classic. Not that there's any goal for me not to or anything like that. I just don't want it to come across like this is not a good guitar and this is the only one that you can choose when it comes to the classics. That's not the case at all. I think this is a fantastic guitar, as is this. It's just, there's little nuances to me that kind of make this a no-brainer for a choice for me personally. The pickups on this here are a little on the shrill side, I find, whereas the 61R and 61T, even though I find them to be a little bit of a hotter pickup, they are very well balanced. And again, that's something you may find that you like the pickups on this more than you like the pickups on this. And as far as pickups, you could buy pickups for this and pay someone to install them if you don't want to learn how to solder or anything like that. And, you know, upgrade the bridge, and you'd still be ahead as far as pricing on this. So there's a lot of different things to consider. I just find playability-wise, and to me, mojo factor, the Les Paul Classic, the Gibson Les Paul Classic, just kind of takes things for me. But again, I can't stress enough to the point where that's just for me. And if you play both of these and you like this one more, because maybe you like the feel of the neck, maybe you don't like the gloss nitro and you'd rather have like a poly gloss finish, you know, then that's the right way to go. But yeah, they're both definitely great guitars, and I'm able to sit down with this and play this and you know, get a little bit of feeling from it and stuff like that, or you know, a whole whack of feeling. And that I do find that to be very important. But I bond with this a hell of a lot more than I bond with this. But again, that's me. Yeah, so in conclusion there, both of these are fantastic choices. You know what I mean? You could save a lot of money and do upgrades and still, you know, be ahead price-wise than if you would have just bought this. And at that point, maybe you're buying pickups that are more suited to what you're playing than what come on this. So there's definitely not a wrong choice, and I always say, and I really, really believe in it, even though I don't always have the time to do it myself, but just go to the store and play them. And that way you'll really know what works for you. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters, not, you know, what some goof on the internet thinks about what guitar works for them better in relation to you. So that's all I gotta say. Thanks for watching.